here's the other thing that I want to show you with the aux sends before we move on. So the first example was rerouting the stereo output to be an auxiliary channel, and that's what's called a subgroup, because you're getting 100% of the signal and you're modifying it in one place. It's affecting all the signal and it's going out the stereo output. This is the second option basically of how to reroute your signal, which is the bus sends, which just takes an amount of signal of your choosing, sends it to a different place to be modified, and then at the same time you have the dry signal from the original channel and you have the wet signal coming out of the modifications that you're making in a third party in a different place, and they both meet at the stereo output, which is why we're hearing both of them. So the bus that we're sending it to is currently on, normally it's on post, and post meaning whatever I do to the main fader, it will also affect the amount of signal you're sending to that other place, because it's after the fader, it's post fader. But if I wanted to change this to pre-fader, notice the little dial here. The dial changes to the left and it changes to blue. Now, no matter what I do to this main fader, it won't affect the amount of auxiliary send I'm telling it to send, because it's pre-fader. It's happening before the fader. So let me just show you what that actually sounds like. Dry and wet, both active, for the delay at least. Now I'm going to start bringing down the dry. I'm only hearing the delay at this point. It's because I have the auxiliary track active, I have delay on it, and I'm sending a certain amount of signal from my original track to that location. It doesn't matter if the original track is up or down. It's still being sent there. That's not the same for the reverb. Notice as I drag this up or down, I'll turn this off for a sec, the reverb actually goes with it. Solo it for a sec. Since it's on post, it's catching all of the signal from the original track and all of the signal from its auxiliary sends. That's the difference between pre and post here. And a very, very good example of when to use this is when you have a session full of musicians that need to be able to hear each other. And what I would do for that is, I don't even need to be in a room full of people to show you. I'll choose a bus, name it bus 20. I'll name this Veronica. Veronioka. And now I have my keyboard player playing into this track. If my keyboard is in input 3 or whatever, I'll just go down and choose input 3. And now if Veronica needs to hear the keyboard player, I'll send a little bit of signal, however much I want, to Veronica's bus. And now I'll change the output patch of Veronica's bus to a different output, basically. If she wants, usually she's listening to headphones. Headphones usually have a left and a right ear, which means it needs 2-channel output. So I have output 3 and 4 here, and on my interface, I have an output 3 and 4 that are just some 1/4-inch jacks that I could use. You could send output 3 and 4 directly over to Veronica's headphone amp, and now whatever I choose to send to output Veronica, bus 20 Veronica, she'll be able to hear that signal. So, here's my drums. Here's my bassist. Here's my vocalist. I'm going to send all of them over to Veronica's headphone amp. And now she can decide, hey, the drums are too loud. Can you turn them down in my headphone amp? You could do that right here. Hey, the bassist is too low. Can you turn them up in my headphones? You could do that right here if you just choose her bus and send more or less signal to them. So it's a means of helping accomplish kind of a more integrated studio workflow by getting everybody kind of on the same page using rerouting techniques of where to send signal to places. And if the bassist is just screaming out of his amp and everybody can hear him, and usually you don't want to have a bass player come through your studio monitors, because like if they hit a note, it's really loud and it's like super low end. So usually you don't want them coming through the PAs, not the PAs, but the studio monitors. They usually bring a little bass cab with them. So if they're playing the bass, you can hear them just fine through their bass cab. And you can hear them because I'm sending them to your headphone amp, but I don't want them to come through the PAs. In that case, I would choose this bus to be on pre-fader instead of post-fader, because I don't want any sound coming through my studio monitors, but I do want sound coming through my headphone amp. Does that make sense? Please give me something to make sure that registers, because that's a very, very important point here with the signal flow is if you can have total control over where you're sending each of your signals to and which stage you're actually putting effects on them, it unlocks just a world of potential for control and distribution of signal in your projects, and you can get some really, really detailed, complicated, and like intelligent mixing done using that kind of prerogative. All right, I'm going to go Google what the word prerogative means, and then we'll go to the next section.